Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you. I see the graphic. That's a good one, yeah. The title is Stalking the Heart, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. The past 2 weeks, I was visiting some of my family in the Virginia area, Northern Virginia, Southern Virginia. And we were sitting on a beautiful mountain lake and watching the full moon rise over the mountains. It was quite beautiful. I was sitting there with my daughter and my grandson and his wife and a couple other people. It seemed like we were out on the deck, just really relaxing, enjoying the evening. And as the moon rose, my one grandson said, "You know, nobody's ever walked on the moon." I said, "Uh-oh." I said, I watch people walk on the moon. No, that was a hoax, et cetera, et cetera. I think you know the rest of it. That the moonwalk and so many other things that we think happened did not really happen. So I thought, oh boy, it's going to be a long visit. So as I sat listening to him and telling him what I believed, I didn't argue with him, but at the same time I made it clear that I did believe people walked on the moon. And that I heard this little voice inside of me say, "Stalk his heart. Stalk his heart." I didn't know what that meant. So I just listened, and I began to ask him. I says, "You sound like you're afraid. You know, it's like this great conspiracy is out to fool us and dupe us and everything." And he said, "Yes, I'm very afraid." And I said, "Well, you must be afraid for your family. You must, you know, there's lots of things that you feel like are in danger, right?" "Oh yeah. You must really value your family and your work and the country that you love." And, "Oh yeah, I sure do," and so forth. And I just tell me about it. You know, tell me how that's important to you. Tell me how that has meaning to you. Tell me what you love. Little by little, we got from the moon to his heart. And as you might guess, the whole energy shifted and changed, and we had a wonderful conversation that evening. And we never had to deal with it again, or at least I never had to deal with it again. And it was not brought up, and so it turned out to be a wonderful visit. But it could have been potentially disastrous if I would have taken the bait, you see. So I've actually developed a meditation practice I call Stalking the Heart that I want to share with you later on in a little bit. Our culture lives totally addicted to the mind, totally identified with the mind. And the mind is a wonderful tool, but the mind separates. And there's a wonderful quote by Nisargadatta, the great Indian sage, who says the mind creates an abyss, and the heart crosses it. The mind creates separation. And, you know, we need separation. We need to know green light from red light. You know, we need to know 9 o'clock from 10 o'clock and so on and so forth. We need the mind. But when we live there exclusively, as we do in our culture, we create divisiveness, and that's exactly what's happened. You see. The mind separates and the heart unites us. But for most of us in our culture, we're pretty much disconnected from our heart. Sometimes that's because the heart has been wounded, and it's safer to disconnect from it. Sometimes it's simply our conditioning, our family conditioning, our cultural conditioning, to not share your heart or to not value your heart. But we're paying a price as a culture for being disconnected. So I'm offering what I think is somewhat of a remedy for us, if you choose to use it. The practice is living with the head in the heart. We don't throw away the mind, but we let the heart be the first go-to. The heart is the context. The heart is in charge, and then the mind follows. There are certainly times when we need the mind, as I mentioned, if we're going to build bridges and do things that we do. The mind is necessary. But for us to have the quality of life, for us to have the meaning in life, for us to have a culture that is kind to one another, that is unified. We can have healthy differences, but when our heart's connected, the differences are simply surface. And we can enjoy those differences. The fact that we have different opinions can make for good conversation, as long as the mind doesn't totally take over. We recognize that we're all human beings, that we all love one another, and that's really what's crucial. So we lose sight of that. The head has a rational intelligence, which is what we value in our culture. You know, when we go to school, I don't recall my heart being educated at all. I remember my head being stuffed full of things. We educate the mind, we don't educate the heart. And when it comes to what's really important in life, raising children and having relationships that work, having a society that works, we pay a price for that if we haven't educated our heart, if we've only educated the head, you see. Because the head sees the differences, and without the heart, that's all it sees, is the difference. The heart has a natural wisdom, has a language of its own. So part of connecting with the heart is learning the language of the heart, learning how the heart speaks to us. It has its own language, its own logic, It doesn't follow the linear map of the mind. The mind is like a road. The heart is more like a river. A river is natural. A river flows. A road goes from A to B, straight. A river meanders. The meandering to the mind seems like a waste of time and energy. But the river knows, like the heart, that it's going somewhere, that its natural flow, what we call gravity, what could also be called love. Mostly we don't think of gravity as love. But just as gravity pulls the water to the sea, the river to the sea, so love draws the heart into the oneness, into the universal love that we're all a part of. So the heart meanders. It doesn't have the logic of the mind. One of the ways the heart speaks to us is through dreams. If you've ever paid attention to your dreams, they sure don't follow the logic of the mind. And yet, if you've ever really deeply understood a dream, you can appreciate the wisdom, the deep wisdom that lies within the heart and speaks to us in a symbolic way. The heart is the seat of emotions, and mostly we don't trust our emotions. There's nothing wrong with any emotion. There may be things wrong with the way we respond to our emotions. You see, in our culture, many of us don't even see that distinction between feeling something and acting it out. Anger is a classic example. A lot of people say they're afraid of anger. And I usually say, I don't think you're afraid of anger. I think you're afraid of what you've seen done by angry people, which is very different than the anger itself. So when we don't understand the language of the heart, then when the heart speaks through fear, through anger, we do things that are not helpful, things that are harmful. If we understood the language of the heart, we could listen, and the emotions would simply be one piece of information that our heart is giving to us. One way the heart speaks to us. But there's a deeper level. Emotions are not the primary function of the heart. That's only the surface level. The heart is the seat of meaning. The heart is the seat of what we value. The heart is the seat of what we love. The heart is the seat of our deepest beliefs, our deepest convictions. What's important to us does not come from the mind, it comes from the heart. And if we understand the language of the heart, we find there's great wisdom and great value in listening, paying attention to it. In the Buddhist Dharma teachings, we're taught not to cling, So we don't cling to anything, but we become aware of what we are. We don't identify with anything. We don't suppress. We don't reject. We just allow it to come up. And that's what we're doing, is we're simply inviting the heart to speak to us. We're inviting the heart's wisdom to speak to us. The Buddha, it is said, overcame all desire. That's not quite true. He overcame all ego-centered desire. But the Buddha desired to teach. He did for 45 years. The Buddha desired to help awaken others. You have to have a deep passion to spend your entire life walking across India, begging for food, to teach people, to awaken people. That requires love. That requires a deep conviction, and that comes from the heart. So we often think of Buddha as this pure emptiness, and that's ultimately what the Buddha is and was. But in his life, the Buddha was very passionate, very clear that his intention was to help awaken all humankind. And in Mahayana Buddhism, which is a later version, later evolution, if you will, of the Buddha's teaching, the idea of the Bodhisattva arose. And of course, the Bodhisattva is very much of a heart-centered icon. If you've ever been to the Nelson Art Gallery, which I'm guessing most of you have, you've gone in front of the Avalokiteshvara, the Kuan Yin. All you need to do is walk in that room. And even though it's nothing but a piece of wood, it radiates a love and a compassion that you can feel. There's an energy to it that transcends the mind. And virtually everybody I know that goes to the Kuan Yin statue doesn't want to leave. It's very, very attractive, you say. And it's not because it appeals to the mind, but there's something that touches the deep heart in that, even though, again, it's just a piece of wood. And the reason it touches our heart is not because of that piece of wood out there, but simply that piece of wood touches something within us that's already there. And so that awakens what's within us. You see, we have the Bodhisattva within us. We have the Buddha within us. We have the divine within us. But it's not been awakened. It's been lost because we've disconnected from the heart. And we've tried to find enlightenment or salvation or whatever you want to call it through your head, you say. If you look at most Christian beliefs, that's what it is. It's a belief. It's got nothing to do with the heart. It's whether you believe the right thing, or you say you do anyway. You don't have to live it, you just believe it. So, Buddha tells us that we are much more than human, but in order to become more than human, we have to be fully human. We have to It's like a fruit on a tree. It falls from the tree when it's ripe. When it ripens, then the fruit's ready to eat, you see. And we're much the same way. It's like when our humanity is ripened, when we really created wholeness by touching the heart, by cultivating the mind, by being fully human, fully in touch with our heart, then we're ready for the next step, you see. And the fruit falls from the tree. Evolution takes care of that. We don't have to figure it out. So it's about being a complete human being, to go beyond being human. And we don't lose our humanity, but we recognize that that's not only who we are. So I'd like to give you a taste of the meditation practice, but first I want to just talk about the word stalking. That may be problematic for some people. So I wanted to define it, or this is the definition I'm using from the dictionary, Merriam-Webster dictionary. One of the definitions is to move silently with clear intention. That's what I mean when I say stalking the heart. To move silently with clear intention. So stalking the heart is bypassing the chatter of the mind and discovering the heart, the deep longing of the heart. So I invite you to join me for maybe 10 minutes in doing this, if you would like. Simply relaxing the body as best you can without sacrificing the posture. So you're sitting tall, the spine straight, the head's tall, pointing to the ceiling. Then relax the body, relax the face, relax the lower jaw, relaxing the tongue, letting the shoulders drop, exhaling. We begin by relaxing the body, letting the body have a deep sigh. Letting go. Bringing awareness to the breath. If there's chatter in the mind, just let it be there. Just bring the awareness to the breath. Let the mind's chatter fall into the background. Kind of like it's moving further and further away. Relaxing the body, focusing our awareness on the breath. And bringing your attention to the heart. It doesn't have to be exactly in the heart itself. It can be in the area of the heart, the chest. Just feeling the torso, the chest. You can feel your heartbeat. Not everyone can, but sometimes we can feel our heartbeat. And I invite you to just bring to mind something that touches your heart. Some person, some memory, a relationship, a place, a memory, something, a pet, kids, grandkids. People, things you do. Something that's deeply meaningful to you. Let yourself just feel what it's like to really let yourself value and love what you love. Love for the Dharma. Love for the Sangha. And sometimes when we let ourselves touch the heart, emotions come up. And that's good, because if we can just let ourselves feel those emotions, that's a big part of the healing, just to feel it. But don't stop there. Don't stop with the emotions. Let yourself feel what you feel. And keep going. What do I love? What do I value? What's the most important thing in the universe for me? We can love, we don't have to grasp. Just recognize that love is an experience. That to love does not mean to cling. If you can, let your whole body feel this experience of loving, of being. What do I appreciate? What am I grateful for? And again, if emotions arise, just let them come up. But don't hold on to them. Let your heart speak to you. Being willing to listen. Being willing to listen. That's all it takes. Even if you don't experience anything right now, the very fact that you've opened up and invited your heart to speak to you, the process has begun. And if you do this at home, I would invite you, when you finish your formal meditation, you can journal, you can paint, draw, sing, dance, make music, but let your heart express itself. Let your heart be your heart through your whole body. The heart is a seat of creativity. It's the seat of joy, the seat of love. So in a moment, you'll hear the sound of the bell. And as you do, I invite you to open your eyes. If you can keep your heart open, that's great. But I invite you to begin anew. Let this be the birthday of your heart. Here's the bell.